Hi guys, welcome to the only channel where my sister tries to tell stories while I'm simultaneously trying to keep us alive.
Yes, thank you, Jake. He handles the movement and fighting. I handle the content. Today's video, though, is dedicated to an important lesson. Never trust my brother with directions, even digital ones. It ties in rather nicely with his current, frankly poor efforts at navigation. The mission was simple. Acquire the legendary golden nugget from a cult favourite chicken shop 2 hours away. Now, 2 hours of driving is nothing, especially for Jake, who fancies himself Lewis Hamilton behind a wheel. The mission was simple. Acquire the legendary golden nugget from a cult favourite chicken shop 2 hours away. Now, 2 hours of driving is nothing, especially for Jake, who fancies himself Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel. So we're in the car, everything's perfect, until Jake gets that look that says, I know better than the road signs. He opens the navigation, sees a tiny grey line, and decides the GPS is offering him a divine shortcut. Flank left, indeed. He chose to save 7 minutes on a 2-hour journey. I warned him. I told him straight. Jake, that shortcut looks suspicious. Those little grey lines on the map are telling me we are about to enter a dimension of pain. But no, he knows best. He took the turn, and the road turned from pavement to the sort of track you'd use to film a bad 1980s horror movie. You should have seen his face when he realised the GPS was still insisting this was the fastest way. So, we've taken the turn. The GPS, bless its little heart, thinks we're on a legitimate road, but what we're actually driving on is something resembling a forgotten riverbed. Jake, of course, refuses to turn around. His logic: we've committed now, Jill. The next 30 seconds were a glorious, slow-motion disaster. The car, which was already complaining quite loudly, starts to sink. It wasn't a sudden drop, mind you. It was a gradual, humiliating descent into the thickest, brownest mud you can imagine. I was, naturally, calm. I simply said, well, Jake, there's your 7 minutes saved. But Jake? Oh, he was magnificent. The panic set in. He starts violently rocking the car, which, as anyone with an IQ above room temperature knows, only serves to dig you in deeper. He's revving the engine, mud flying everywhere, hitting the windows. He's yelling at the GPS, as if the little robotic voice could suddenly reroute us onto the M6. The air in the car was thick with diesel and pure, unadulterated Scouse panic.
Moving.
Moving? The only thing moving was the car further down into the earth. Eventually, he stops and looks at me, his face absolutely covered in mud from where he'd opened the door to assess the damage. He asks with genuine shock, Is this bad? No, I'm already visualising the thumbnail for the next video, Jake's car, swallowed by the earth. I tell him, very sweetly, that the GPS did not in fact mention that this shortcut required a snorkel and a winch. The poor idiot then gets out and tries to use the one thing he shouldn't, his favourite hoodie, to gain traction under the tyres. A beautiful, pristine hoodie sacrificed to the mud gods, all for a dubious nugget. So there we sat, Jake covered in mud, his favourite hoodie ruined, and the car smelling distinctly of failure. We were deep in the wilderness, miles from the nearest proper road. It was at this low point that our salvation arrived, in the form of a man I can only describe as Farmer Giles' slightly unhinged cousin. Dodgy is an understatement, Jake. He pulls up on a tractor that sounds like it's running on ambition and thin air, stops right at the edge of the mud and just stares at us. He doesn't offer help. He just laughs, a deep, wheezing sound that echoed Jake's personal defeat. Eventually, he saunters over and looks at the car, then looks at Jake and says, very slowly, well, lad, you're proper stuck, aren't ya? We then have a 10-minute negotiation over the price of the tow, which started at a ludicrous figure and ended only slightly less ludicrous. Yes, thank you, I see the enemy. I also saw Jake hand over almost an entire week's worth of food money for a 50-foot tow from a man who should probably be investigated by the authorities. The man then spent another 5 minutes adjusting the chain, all while regaling us with tales of other idiots who trusted the shortcut. Jake was silent. Absolute, perfect silence. The shame had finally done what I could not. It had silenced my brother. I remember the rescuer winking at me as if to acknowledge my obvious superiority before finally giving a mighty tug on his rickety tractor. We got pulled out, finally, spluttering back onto the mud track. The rescuer takes his cash, leaves Jake with a final, pitying look, and drives off. We are finally moving again, but the damage is done. Financially ruined and psychologically scarred, Jake has to navigate the 2-hour drive all over again. So, We are back on the main road. The car is coated in mud, the engine sounds suspicious, and Jake's favourite hoodie is now a permanent fixture in some forgotten swamp. But we have a mission. We have to get that golden nugget. The original 7 minutes we tried to save have now cost us 2 hours, 50 quid, and Jake's dignity. We finally reached two totals in the ditch. As the strolling green kind of Beethoven now, turning now, police not from the Arctic. Ingredients is showing that. Line my engine in my marble, we do action strictly in my mouth. Wait, balls on his trembling. Show it feels out, not strolling. I not just tells. Whoop, ending. Hours. Ago. The traffic jam was gone, the shortcut was gone, but the one thing we drove 4 hours for, the one thing that could have justified the swamp, the hoodie, and the 50 quid was gone. Jake just sat there. And the silence this time wasn't shame. It was catatonia. I stopped moving because I'm narrating the moral of the story, you muppet. The GPS shortcut was a lie. The car was stuck. We wasted the whole day. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you never trust Jake to handle anything. Ever. And so, there we were. 4 hours of driving, £50 gone to Farmer Giles' retirement fund, and 0 golden nuggets. Jake looked like a beaten puppy that had just run a marathon. He was physically and spiritually broken. He still maintained the GPS was right and the chicken shop was wrong. It's always your fault, darling. Just like this game. Look at the scoreboard. We are dead last. And the main reason is you're always so loud and frantic. You never notice the silent threats until it's too late. Look, Jake, the game is gone. Just like the chicken nugget. You were focused on the wrong things and got wiped out by a silent threat you couldn't perceive. Just accept the loss, please. Alright guys, that's the end of today's video. We release videos like this every day where I give you a glimpse into the trauma of sharing a life with this Muppet. So please remember to like and subscribe, and also turn on your notifications to know when Jake makes his next catastrophic mistake.